What if I told you that watching his wife struggle with needle and thread sparked an invention that would revolutionize fashion forever and free millions of women from hours of daily drudgery? By the end of this video, you'll discover how one man's determination to help his family led to the machine that made ready-to-wear clothing possible for everyone. Picture this. It's 1840s Massachusetts. In a small, cramped apartment in Cambridge, Elias Howe Jr. watches his wife, Elizabeth, sewing by candlelight, her fingers moving slowly and methodically, stitch by painful stitch. Elizabeth takes in sewing work to help support their growing family because Elias, a machinist, barely earns enough to pay the bills. Every shirt, every dress, every piece of clothing has to be sewn entirely by hand. As Elias watches his wife work late into the night, he thinks, there has to be a better way. He has no idea that this moment of frustration is about to change the world. You see, in the 1840s, making clothes was backbreaking work. Every single stitch had to be done by hand. A simple shirt could take days to complete. A dress? Weeks. For families like the Howes, this meant Elizabeth would sew for other people to earn extra money, but the work was slow, her fingers would cramp, and her eyesight suffered from squinting in dim light. Elias had heard his boss, machinist Ari Davis, say something that stuck with him. The man who invents a practical sewing machine will make a fortune. But here's the thing, people had been trying to mechanize sewing for decades. Some had even built working machines, but none could create stitches strong enough or fast enough to replace hand sewing. For 5 years, Elias spent every spare moment tinkering in makeshift workshops, trying to crack the code of mechanical sewing. But he kept running into the same problem. How do you make a needle work like a hand? Then one night, he had the most vivid dream. He dreamed he was captured by cannibals who told him he had 24 hours to build a working sewing machine or face execution. In the dream, as he was being led away to be executed, he noticed something crucial. The warriors' spears had holes near the tips, not at the ends like regular needles. Elias woke up at 4 a.m. with the solution blazing in his mind. Instead of trying to push the thread through the fabric from behind like hand sewing, what if the eye was at the point of the needle? By 9 a.m., he had crudely modeled his revolutionary idea, a needle with the eye at the point that would carry thread forward and create a lock stitch with a second thread below. In 1845, Elias built his first working sewing machine in the attic of his friend George Fisher. This machine had 3 revolutionary features that we still use today. First, a needle with the eye at the point that carries the thread forward through the fabric. Second, a shuttle that operated beneath the cloth, catching the needle thread and creating a lock stitch. Third, an automatic feeding mechanism that moved the cloth forward consistently. The machine could sew 250 stitches per minute, faster than 5 expert seamstresses working together. On September 10, 1846, Elias Howe received U.S. patent number 4750, the first patent for a practical lock-stitch sewing machine. That's where the story gets heartbreaking. Despite having this revolutionary invention, Elias couldn't find anyone in America willing to invest in it. Desperate for money, he sold his patent rights in England for just £250, about $1,250, barely enough to pay his family's debts. He moved to England alone, leaving Elizabeth and their children behind, and worked for £5 a week trying to perfect his machine for leather and other materials. His financial situation was so bad that he had to borrow money to send his family home to America. When he finally returned, destitute and defeated, he found his beloved wife, Elizabeth, dying. The invention meant to help his family had cost him everything, but the story was far from over. When Elias returned to America, he discovered something infuriating. Other manufacturers, including Isaac Singer, were making and selling sewing machines that used his patented lock-stitch design. They were getting rich off his invention, while he had nothing, But Elias Howe was not about to let that stand. For 5 years, from 1849 to 1854, he fought legal battles to defend his patent. People thought he was crazy. David fighting Goliath against well-funded companies. But in 1854, he won. The courts ruled that his patent was valid and that other manufacturers owed him royalties for every machine they'd sold. Suddenly, Elias Howe was earning $5 in royalties for every sewing machine sold in America. In 1 year alone, he made $2 million, equivalent to about $60 million today. But the real revolution wasn't Elias getting rich. It was what his machine did for the world. Before the sewing machine, a tailor at Brooks Brothers needed 3 weeks to make one overcoat. After, 6 days. The price dropped dramatically, making quality clothing affordable for ordinary people. Women who had spent 12 to 14 hours a day sewing by hand were suddenly free to pursue education, jobs, and other opportunities. The fashion industry exploded. Ready-to-wear clothing became possible. What we now call fast fashion started with Elias Howe's simple dream of helping his wife. His invention led to the employment of millions of people worldwide, especially women in developing countries who found economic independence through garment work. Elias never forgot where his inspiration came from. During the Civil War, he used his wealth to outfit the 17th Connecticut Volunteer Infantry and served as a private himself, despite his poor health. He died in 1867 at just 48 years old, but not before receiving a gold medal at the Paris exhibition and France's Légion d'honneur. His simple machine, born from watching his wife struggle with needle and thread, had revolutionized manufacturing, liberated countless women from drudgery, and democratized fashion for the world. Every time you buy a shirt, a dress, or any piece of clothing, you're benefiting from Elias Howe's moment of inspiration in that candlelit room in Cambridge. The abundance and affordability of clothing we take for granted exist because one man watched his wife work too hard and refused to accept that this was just the way things had to be. What daily struggle in your life might be waiting for someone to say, there has to be a better way? The next time you use a sewing machine, or even just put on a piece of clothing, remember Elias and Elizabeth Howe, the couple whose struggle and determination gave us one of history's most liberating inventions. If this story inspired you, let me know in the comments. What invention do you think we need most to solve a modern problem? And if you're hungry for more incredible stories about the inventions that changed everything, History Sparks has fantastic tales waiting for you. We're constantly uncovering these remarkable moments where human needs sparked world-changing innovation. Make sure to subscribe to the History Sparks community and ring that notification bell, because every invention has a human story, and every story connects us to the brilliant problem solvers who made our modern world possible.